Hey friend, welcome to the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I'm your host, Emily Nichols. As a Whole30 certified coach, wife, busy working boy mom, and your self-care guru, I'm here to help you start putting yourself first without the guilt. Each week you'll hear motivating and practical tips on how you can create a habit of self-care through interviews with my amazing guests or quick solo episodes with me. After each episode, you'll walk away with an action plan and feel empowered to implement what you have learned into your life. So grab a cup of coffee, glass of wine, or your favorite sparkling water, and let's do this. You're listening to episode 54 of the Self-Care Isn't Selfish podcast. I wasn't sure if I was going to get this recorded or if you would be hearing a puppy in the background. If you don't know, we got a puppy. His name's Dexter. He's a little white lab. Well, he's not little. He's huge. He's just over 3 months old and about 32 pounds. But he was here in my recording studio, my lovely closet with me, and he was being really good, but then he started getting my shoes and then chewing on his chew toy really, really loud. So here we are. I'm finally here. This is real life, yeah? Well, I'm really excited about this episode. As you know, the whole month of July, I've been featuring women of color on the podcast. And to wrap up the month, I wanted to bring back on Eve Guzman. She was on episode 11. We were talking about health as wealth and just the power of making changes in your wellness have a domino effect in all aspects of your life. And just like the title says, health is wealth. So go back and listen to that episode to hear more about Eve's transformation story and how she has just gone for things in her life and has succeeded. It's really inspirational. But she's my first repeat guest. I wanted to bring her on because I wanted to hear her perspective on representation in the fitness industry. Because let's face it, I don't think there is much representation. It's very white person focused. And I wanted to, as I'm doing my own work, understand how I can support the movement more in regards to me being a personal trainer and group fitness instructor, and how I can be more conscious about supporting businesses that are, showing representation. So let me tell you a little bit more about Eve before we dig into our conversation. If you haven't listened to episode 11, like I said, go back and listen, but let me tell you a little bit about Eve first. She's an internationally acclaimed nutritionist, business coach, public speaker, and People Magazine Half Their Size ambassador. Y'all, she was in People Magazine. She's lost more than 150 pounds through exercise and her macronutrition philosophy. So she went from obese to a nationally qualified figure competitor. That is amazing. So she's the owner of the G Transformation Academy, which aims to help women ditch fad diets, lose weight, and eat real food without being restricted. So her whole mission is to see women achieve real body goals by eating the foods they love for the rest of their life. And we talk a bit in the beginning about macros and what that's all about. But this conversation is all about representation in the fitness industry, another important conversation as we round out this month. So sit back and relax and enjoy this conversation with my friend, Eve Guzman. All right, gang, I am so excited to welcome back Eve Guzman to the podcast. Eve, thanks so much for joining me again.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to ask you this. I've already asked you this, but this was way back on episode 11 last time you were on the show. But Eve, what does self-care mean to you?
So self-care to me is like engaging in anything that I feel like contributes to like my mental health, my psychological development, business development, fitness, or nutrition. And so it's basically like allotting that time for me to do any of those things and not feeling selfish or feeling guilty about doing it, because I know that I need to have those things to be able to pour from a full cup.
Yeah. And with everything going on in the world right now, do you feel like your self-care routine looks totally different?
Yes. It's changed probably, oh my gosh, probably every 6 weeks. I would say it has definitely changed because initially at the beginning of quarantine, our whole family was home. So like the first week was kind of like, is this happening? So there was no self-care. It was just like putting out fires. And then it was like, this is happening. And then we tried to establish a routine. We got one. My husband went back to work. So then I had to get a new routine because I was like sharing a routine with him. And so now I've kind of settled into what was a blend of what it used to look like before, but definitely with more boundaries because we need boundaries right now when we're taking care of ourselves.
Oh my gosh. And the kids are home.
Yeah. And so the kids have been home for, oh my gosh, how many months has it been? Since March 13th or 9th. So
Yeah.
it's been like 4-ish months.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm. Well, and I think people need to be okay with that and just knowing that, hey, this is a totally weird season of life we're going through, and you have to just adjust accordingly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about you a little bit more. Like I said, you were on episode 11, and we were just talking about how when you find like the healthiest version of yourself, how everything else in your life really just falls into place, and asking for what you want and the transformation story that you went through. But I would love for people who haven't listened to episode 11, first thing, they need to go back and listen. But can you tell your story a little bit, who you are and where you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I am a nutritionist, a personal trainer, business coach, and public speaker. I own G Transformation Academy, where half of our clients are trying to, chase after their healthiest self. They're trying to lose weight or eat better or lose fat or feel fitter, lift heavier, run faster, longer, whatever their individual goal is. But it's usually tied to nutrition kind of being the main focus, and then exercise and lifting being about 20% of it. And then the other 50% of my clientele are fitness coaches, registered dietitians, and nutritionists who are learning how to either grow their business online or are looking to become a certified macro coach, because I do have a national certification. And this business was built off of my own transformation. This was not what I thought I would be doing. If you asked me in 2013, was this going to happen? I would have said, heck no. But I ended up trying to lose weight after spending a lifetime of being overweight, being obese. I was almost 300 pounds. I'm 5'1", and I tried every single diet, probably 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. And I finally got to the point when I was almost 280 pounds. That's the highest I know of. So who knows how big I actually got. But 5'1", size 24, I decided to stop giving up on diets, and I created my own. So I created my own nutrition plan. I really approached it from a place of science and energy balance. I created my own program, ended up losing 120 pounds in 16 months, got pregnant with my son, got back up to 200, lost it again, and then ended up losing a total of 158 pounds, which was more than half my body weight. And I ended up getting noticed by People magazine and ended up becoming one of their ambassadors 5 years ago in 2015. Flash forward, everybody saw my story and was like, help me, help me, help me. So I was like, why not? So I gave up my job in corporate America, being a research scientist, and I managed a few laboratories. I became a nutritionist, and I put all of my passion, energy, and efforts into helping other people do the same thing and get their own transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love that you went through your own transformation and people wanted you to start helping them, but now you in turn help other coaches turn their passions into a business. That's amazing.
Yep, absolutely. I feel like both of them equally make me happy, like people chasing after this goal of like food freedom or being able to eat healthy or look good or take care of themselves. And that's fulfilling to see women like, oh my God, my battle with the scale is over. And then on the flip side, for coaches that really want to work from home, be with their families, have an impact, it's the same passion, because I mostly coach women, and being able to give them a job, a business of their own, like that's like the same type of feeling.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure being able to have that flexibility of being a working mom, but still being able to be there for your kids is amazing. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is. Yep.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this, because you have a lot of experience in fitness and nutrition, obviously. What would you say is the biggest mistake you see people making in regards to fitness and nutrition? Because there's 20 million diets out there. Like you said, you tried all of them. I feel like I've tried a few here and there and failed at all of them because diets like that don't work. But what do you feel like is the biggest mistake people are making when it comes to their fitness and or nutrition?
So on the fitness aspect, because it kind of it can go in two ways. So on the fitness aspect, I see a lot of people thinking they have to do tons of cardio. When they think I've got to lose weight, I got to get fit, I want to look better, I want to look leaner, I want to look stronger, they think I need to be doing tons of cardio. So people will ask me, oh, you probably do 2 hours of cardio a week. Oh, you do 1 hour of cardio a day. And I'm like, no, that's not it. So when it comes to kind of fitness or losing weight, that's the biggest mistake that I see. When it's nutrition, the biggest mistake that I see is people neglect looking at the total number of calories they consume. I think people think, well, if I eat healthy and I eat avocado toast and salmon, I'm going to lose weight, not knowing that those like two specific items are really high in fat, they're higher in calories. So people can't always assume just because your choices are healthy that you're not over consuming. And a lot of people are like, I'm eating all the fruits and all the vegetables, all the sweet potatoes, the brown rice, I'm not losing a thing. And then they find out their portions are way off. So those are probably the two biggest things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we talked about this last time on the show as far as macros go. That's not something you have to count forever. It seems like a lot of people, once they get the hang of it, you can eyeball things like, okay, I know this piece of salmon, I have about this many calories and fat, and I'm going to add this type of actual fat and carb to my meal. And after a while, it just becomes intuitive to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a macro tracker. I've been doing it on and off for 6 years. The only times that I'm like consistently counting were when I was preparing for figure competitions or doing a small cut. So counting calories or macros, it's definitely a tool to get to a goal or to kind of bring things back in check when you went off the rails. But no one ever, ever, ever should be doing it forever. It's not meant to be an obsessive thing. It's not meant to be a second job of yours. Like last year, 2019, I maintained my weight the entire year. And I think total weeks, if you added it all up for the entire year of me tracking, it was like 10 to 12 weeks. And that's because I just know the portion sizes. And I only track when I start to go, wow, these pants don't fit anymore. Maybe I need to see how much like rice I'm eating. Am I overdoing it on my like daily chocolate? And then I'll track for accountability. And then I'll go back to not tracking once I get like that honesty and portions back in track.
Yeah, it's definitely a tool. Super, super helpful. So let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about how there's a movement going on in our nation right now, and I hope it's not just a moment. I hope it's a movement that continues to go. And with the recent murder of George Floyd and a lot of other things coming to light to white folks and how we can be actual allies and take steps to be anti-racist, I got to thinking about the fitness industry and people of color, and that it's probably not equal in that manner. So, and just in looking on social media and doing my own research, I could tell that the fitness industry predominantly caters towards white people. And I kind of wanted to get your perspective on that, being a woman of color and in the fitness industry, and kind of just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's absolutely, if you want to call it like an even playing field or equality on what you see in representation in the fitness world, it's definitely not equal. It's gotten better. When I first started, there were hardly any women of color. And if there was one, I was following them. And so like a lot of the accounts that have been out there for a while. So if you think of like Massey, she's Latina. If you think of like Lita Lewis, I mean, there's so many women. I started following them 2013, 14, 15, and there was not that many of us. I was in an MLM. There weren't that many then. And now there's so many like young newcomers that I can't even keep up with how many there are. But the number or the ratio to women of color is definitely different. I do see definitely some inequality in those numbers when I go to fitness pages, meaning companies that provide supplements or workout clothing. When you scroll through, and this is definitely been a time where, you know, once we had that Blackout Tuesday, everybody's scrolling and checking people's accounts. Did you do the black square? Did this account do the black square? Did this account send an email talking about, you know, all people matter, Black Lives Matter? And so a lot of us were, you know, we had this very, you know, critiquing eye, and we were watching. I was really looking at those pages too to see, wait a minute, like some of my favorite companies, are there like any women of color? And sometimes you could scroll an entire year and see no one. And there were a couple of companies that I was sponsored with that I actually chose to leave because of how they handled the situation. And so I have stayed with companies that have been like fairly representative, and a lot of companies are trying to move forward and make this a movement, a permanent thing, and not a moment. But it's definitely not equal. And I think the things that have happened recently are really opening up people's eyes to seeing like, wow, it's not equal.
How's that saying go? Oh yeah, all things are possible with coffee and mascara. Well, that's certainly true for me, and I love to have my coffee every morning after my workout, and I don't really leave the house without mascara. So my fellow blondies, I know you feel me on this. But gang, check it out. Having my coffee every morning is part of my self-care routine, and I always take my coffee blended with nut pods and coconut oil. So nut pods is a dairy-free creamer. It's made from a blend of almond butter and coconut cream. I love the French vanilla flavor. It's my favorite. It's super yummy, super smooth, but even better, it's Whole30 approved. So gang, head on over to nutpods.com and use the code EmilyNichols22 to get 15% off your first order of Nut Pods. That's EmilyNichols22, EmilyNichols22. And let me know once you receive your Nut Pods what your favorite flavor is and how you take your coffee. So remember, just head on over to nutpods.com. Well, it's really disheartening that, you know, if you're wanting to look for inspiration on how to get healthy and you're looking at these certain accounts and you don't see anyone that looks like you, that would be really disheartening and kind of maybe halt you in your tracks to think, well, I don't see myself being able to do this. Is that true? Would you say that's true or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, even at a time where I had to make a decision with a particular supplement company last year, that was the thing I thought. Like, I scrolled through the page and I was kind of like, well, there's not many people that look like me. I mean, it was mostly like white males.
Yeah.
And the next in line, it was mostly white women. And I'm like, I love the product. I love the taste. I love the quality. And I went for it. I was like, this is kind of the standard. Like, I'll go ahead and sign on as an athlete. Then an incident happened right around Blackout Tuesday, where there was just a situation with another Black athlete, and it just became this really public debate, and I didn't like how they handled it, and it made me think, oh my God, you in the back of your mind, back last year, 2019, you were like, this doesn't look like me, but I really liked the company, and I signed on, and I mean, it only took me a couple hours within realizing what had happened with this Black athlete, and then I was just kind of like, peace out. And
Yeah.
so I left.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of companies that didn't do statements or anything that I was sponsored with, and I broke ties with them as well. And I don't just like do it just because like, oh, you don't have a black square and I'm a woman of color. I do look at it with a very open lens. I am biracial. My mom is white. My dad is black. And so I do keep like a keen eye, and I look at both ends and both sides because I can definitely relate to both. But now moving forward, I am trying to make a conscious effort in supporting the companies that support everyone, men, women, shapes, sizes, and colors, so that people who follow me will also see that. And then we can start to kind of multiply, domino effect. And then everybody is supporting the companies that support everybody to make it a standard, like a normal thing. But if we only try to be one way, that's what's going to happen. We're just going to be one way.
Yeah. Well, I think people just get too comfortable, and I feel like maybe white folks have been kind of slapped in the face a little bit, like, hey, who are you following? Like, who are you aligning yourself with? And I think a lot of times you're drawn to people that look like you, and it's like, well, where's the diversity and color and learning opportunities in that? And you're not being able to reach a whole nother audience in that manner as well. And just going back to, listening to your gut, I always say your gut knows what's up.
Yeah,
That's just another.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely say when I started my business in 2014, most of my clients were Black women.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I said to my husband, I was like, this is cool, business is growing, but I'm only getting Black women. And I did not want that. And I made this joke with my online business manager, who also does copy for me. And she's also mixed. Mom's white, dad is Black. And I'm like, this is great. We're growing really fast, but only Black women are signing up for programs with me. And I was like, Black money is cool, but I want all money. I want to have this really diverse team, and I want to have a really diverse clientele. And that's what ended up happening last year for us. So I was very intentional when I took coaches on the team for us to basically have a trainer that looked different, talked different, different body type and everything. And so if you scroll through like my client testimonials, business coaches, fitness coaches, I mean, there's an array of diversity because I have chased after that since 2016.
I love that. Now, speaking from a trainer's perspective, when I work with clients, I like to think of a holistic approach to their health. Obviously their physical health, their nutrition, but also how are they doing mentally? Is their spirit down right now? How can trainers kind of think of wellness and a holistic approach for their clients of color right now? Because it's been a really mentally trying time and exhausting time. And I'm like, if I have a Black client, how can I help them as a trainer, as a white trainer?
Got it. Yeah. So definitely, making them feel like they're included. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to seem like I'm doing extra. I don't want to seem like I'm being fake. And I'm like overly acknowledging people. But I mean, people are hurt, people of color are hurt, and they're really wanting people to acknowledge that they see what's happening, because there really is solidarity in dismantling racism. And so you don't necessarily have to have a, heart-to-heart conversation about it the very first time, but just acknowledging that, you know what's going on, and asking like, how are you doing? And then wherever the conversation leads, it leads. I think people are afraid of doing too much, or asking, how are you? Or asking just certain questions and thinking it's the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I think when people remain quiet, then all we do is just wonder, what are they thinking? What are they thinking? What did that look like? What did that mean? Like what, that kind of thing. So really just like embracing the relationship that you guys already have to kind of open up the lines of communication, because people of color want to feel like we're moving together in unity. Like we definitely want genuine allies, but acknowledging that you see what's happening is definitely the very first step, because, you know, people are hurt. We're definitely getting over it. Like, you go through those phases of like fear and denial and madness and acceptance. And, you know, it's like the 12 stages. And people are starting to get where they're a little bit more comfortable, but people of color are letting people in that they feel like are genuinely their allies. So making people feel comfortable really is the biggest thing. And then just like asking how people are doing, and wherever the conversation leads is where it's going to go.
Yeah. It's been really interesting. I've had so many great conversations with Black friends and a few other ladies coming on the show this month who are brown or Black or whatnot. And the same theme keeps coming up again. It's like saying nothing is wrong. You have to say something and acknowledge what's going on, even though it may feel uncomfortable and awkward. It's like we're all still human beings, but it's kind of like that analogy they keep saying right now, like, you know, the house next door is on fire and you're like, but what about my house, to the firefighter? It's like, but they're
Absolutely
on fire. So that's just kind of how it's interesting that just keeps coming up over and over again in conversation for me. It's like the wrong thing to say is absolutely nothing. Don't say it. If saying nothing at all is the wrong thing, but also have the awkward conversation and just acknowledge people and ask them how they're doing. It's going to go a long way.
Yeah. And then definitely the next step isn't really saying, well, what can I do? It's really like just doing it. Just show up. Just do the work. Yeah. Don't ask. Just do what you think is right to do. Because, I mean, it's the same thing. Are you going to be silent or talk? Are you going to actually take action? Because action will speak louder than words. So just do anything. Yeah. Anything.
Something. Well, yeah, I saw so many posts. People were like, okay, you posted your little black square today. What are you going to do now? It's like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, switching gears a little bit and just thinking about the fitness industry and how off balance it is. You know, when people think of fitness and nutrition, and then looking at certain fitness accounts, you just see these booty shots of these girls and like super duper fit men and women. And I feel like there's a real big disparity as far as body diversity when it comes to fitness and what we're seeing on social media. And I feel like it's not celebrated enough, all the different shapes and sizes we have. And I'm sure you deal with this a lot with your clients, where you're like, you're not going to look like so-and-so on this page, and you're not going to look like this person, because we're all just built differently. But I feel like there's still some disparities when it comes to body diversity as well in the fitness industry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, how many times have you like went to a website to like buy a pair of leggings? It could be Fabletics or whatever. Actually, let's think about Fabletics a year ago, because they have made a lot of major changes. But like, or let's just say Nike. You go to Nike and you're looking for like these like, you know, leggings that are long all the way down to the ankle. And then you see this like 21-year-old athlete, abs are popping, booty's nice, popping, lifted, and you're like, I don't even know what I would look like in these. Like,
right.
Okay, it says model is 5'10" and a size small, and you're like, well, what does like 160 and 5'4" look like in that?
Right.
And so, I mean, just shopping, no matter what your color is, when you don't see the shapes and sizes, it's just kind of like, wow, there's not a lot of inclusion. But fast forward now, when you go to pages like the Buff Bunny collection, is it Taylor Chamberlain, her brand, might be butchering her last name, Fabletics. You can see now some accounts that have fitness clothing lines, you see different shaped models, and they'll list their height, their size, and their weight. You'll see 160 pounds in the caption. Yeah. You'll see a girl that you know is clearly plus size. Even accounts like, or companies like Buff Bunny, they're not editing out the cellulite, and I love it. I've lost 150 pounds. I have cellulite, I have stretch marks, I've got rolls. Some mornings I have abs, at night I have a roll. I mean, like, I need to be able to see everything. And I'm supporting those types of companies too. Like I'm buying from companies that are showing all types of body types. And when I see those types of accounts and pages, I only want to follow them more. And then the superficial ones, I see myself 2 months, 3 months later than unfollowing, so that I am supporting accounts that are really showing all kinds of women. Because no one's going to have the perfect body type. Not everybody's going to be 5'10" and 135 pounds. Like, it's not going to happen. But I think that companies need to step forward and start to see, like, the average woman is not, the woman that was in all of those ads in 2015.
Right, right. I think all in all, like in the fitness and nutrition industry, there definitely needs to be a lot more diversity. I think we're making steps for sure, but I think we all have more work to do. And like you said, if we all make little small changes, like aligning ourselves with companies that are showing all different races, all different shapes and abilities and sizes and whatnot, it's going to influence someone else to do the same. And like you said, it's just going to trickle down to everyone else.
Yeah. And then I think also when it comes down to us, whether you have a personal account or a business account, is trying to get uncomfortable and post like the normal shots of yourself that you would normally go, I'm not putting that up. Where you're like, oh, I was kind of bent over to the side. I see that little fat roll. I'm posting that stuff. Because I want women to want to get fit and healthy with their version of fit and see, oh, I can see Eve's cellulite today. Oh, I can see her roll. And 2 years ago, I wouldn't have put those photos up. But now I feel like I have to. And I have more body confidence in doing that because I feel better about myself, but I'm not over critiquing myself because I'm like, it's already out there. Like, what's the worst going to be now?
Right. And I'm sure you get the most positive comments and feedback from people about that too. I love it. I love it. Well, Eve, what is going on with you in your business right now? Where can everyone find you and connect with you and be inspired by you online?
Sure. So I live and die. I want to say die. I guess I live all the time on Instagram. You guys can follow me at Eve_FitChick. Right now we're in a season where we are just spending like the next couple of months educating our audience on healthy nutrition, sustainable nutrition, body confidence. And so we're really going through the next 60 days running a campaign where all of our information is just free education about nutrition and fitness. I do have my certification launching in the fall, but I'm really spending these summer months on educating people how to be able to do some really, really easy changes with their nutrition and fitness so they can hit their goals.
Yeah. Well, and with everything going on with COVID right now, I feel like that's an area enough people aren't talking about, is how to be the healthiest version of you so you can fight off any sickness or any, mental health challenges you have as well. So thank you for putting that out there and for free. That's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. So, well, Eve, thank you so much for this conversation. Folks, go back and listen to episode 11 to hear even more from Eve. But thank you again for coming on again. I so appreciate you, Eve.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I'm honored that I was a repeat podcaster.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again. Thanks again, Eve, for being my first repeat guest on the podcast. I so always enjoy chatting with you and just following along with you on social media. I feel like I learned so much from you, and I feel like I'm always just nodding my head like, and double tapping, loving your posts. So thank you so much for your insight today. And y'all, I'll make sure to include a link in the show notes so you can connect with Eve on social media as well. So let's go through my 3 biggest takeaways from this conversation with Eve. So I had mentioned this in a solo episode when Black Lives Matter was really taking off. And just from this conversation with Eve, I think it's really important that you continue to take action and say something. As we mentioned a lot in this episode and previous episodes, you can't say the wrong thing. Saying nothing is worse than saying nothing at all and just learning from your mistakes. If you say something wrong or get it wrong, it's okay. So don't feel afraid to ask your BIPOC friends, hey, how are you doing? Just simply checking on them, saying, hey, how are you doing? Because, like I said, it's been a very mentally exhausting time for our friends of color right now. And simply just saying, hey, how are you doing? I'm thinking of you, to let them express whatever they would like to express can go a long way and just show that you care. Now, you don't need to start word vomiting on them of all the ways you're taking action. You're doing this, and oh, what do they think you should be doing as well? No, don't do that. That's more of being showboaty, in my opinion, to be like, look what I'm doing to take action. Action speaks louder than words, that saying. So continue taking your own action and doing the work. There is a time and place to speak up, but it's not to show your friends of color all that you're doing. Rather, just show your caring heart, take your own action on your own, and let that speak for itself. My second biggest takeaway is representation matters. So when you're thinking about the businesses that you support, take a look at their social media accounts, their websites. Do they have various people of color representing their brand? We also talked about body diversity in this episode with Eve. And thinking about businesses you support, are they showing all different shapes and sizes? This is an easy way for you to take action to support those businesses that are showing body and color diversity within their brand. Okay? And if you even want to take it a step further, maybe shooting an email to corporate or headquarters of a business that you really like getting, like we were talking about, leggings from, but you're like, I really don't see a lot of representation. Maybe writing an email to them saying, hey, I really wish you would show more diversity color-wise and body-wise within your brand. If they're getting enough emails like that from people, it'll help change and allow people to see themselves. And lastly, my third biggest takeaway is racial injustice work doesn't end. This is not a moment in time. This is a movement, and we need to keep the momentum going. So now that you're more aware, now that we have more perspective, if you're a white ally, continue to do the work and take action. I really hope you've enjoyed my featured guests this whole month of July. Like I mentioned earlier in the month, I really don't feel like before now I've done the best job diversifying the show. And that's changed, and that will continue to change as we move forward. The show has been around almost a year now, which is great. I've learned a lot. I've learned even more so in the past month or so during this movement and what I can be doing to support everyone, not just people who look like me, but everyone. And I hope you take that to heart moving forward as well. This is not just a moment. This is a movement. Let's continue supporting our friends of color moving forward and really taking to heart what you can be doing as a white ally. Friends, thank you so much again for listening to today's show. Let's continue the conversation together over in my free Facebook community. I have been loving the conversations we've been having over there so far. It's just a way for us to touch base each week, talk about each week's episode and some other things that are going on just in life, just having real life conversations. We crave connection and community more than ever. So click the link in my show notes. You can join my free Facebook community, and I'll even send you a free gift for joining us. Make sure to also check out the show notes, like I mentioned, so you're able to follow Eve and continue getting inspiration from her. Eve, thank you so much again for coming back on the show. And make sure to give me a follow as well at Emily Nichols22 and at Self Care Isn't Selfish Podcast, so we can connect online and maybe you can see a few pictures of my puppy I mentioned earlier, Dexter. He makes quite a few appearances. So thank you all so much again for listening. And remember, self-care isn't selfish. Bye.